Hey, this is Cornelius Lindsey, and welcome to The Silent Majority. You know, with growing partisan distaste amongst many voters, there's a silent majority that's growing that doesn't find a home in either of America's two major political parties. People don't know how to identify themselves, and a large number of people are simply not voting. Of all the voters, many people are just unsatisfied with either the candidates or the system. This silent majority is growing, and we have something to say. Welcome to The Silent Majority. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Silent Majority. This is Cornelius Lindsey, and I am joined today again by my good friend, Mr. Robert Kelly. Rob, you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. It's always a pleasure, always an honor, and I want to have a good conversation today. So the election is over. Praise God, but it ain't over. It's not over in Georgia yet. Why I gotta live in a state we still gotta go through all these different ads all over again, bro? I mean, we got, right now the shift in power for the Senate comes down to these two races in Georgia. I don't know. Have they called the Senate race in Alaska yet?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they called it in Alaska yet.
I don't think they have. They didn't call the Senate race in Alaska. But we have two runoffs here in the state of Georgia. So in the state of Georgia, the way our laws go is that you have to have 50%, 50.1, or you have to have over 50%. You can't just have 50%. Right now, I think David Perdue is sitting at 50%, but he has to have over 50% in order for there to be a sure winner and not have a runoff. But since there was a third party candidate with David Perdue and John Ossoff, then David Perdue has to ultimately they have to go into a runoff. And then because of the jungle primary with Kelly Loeffler, Ralph Warnock, Doug Collins, so on and so forth, then there must be a runoff. So now there's a runoff between Kelly Loeffler and Ralph Warnock. So this should be extremely interesting for January, for the runoff happening in January. Rob, you hear the news? Andrew Yang is moving to Georgia to help with the Senate race, so they can make sure they win both of those.
I think that's interesting. And
tell us how you feel then, man.
So this is the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, I think people moving and shifting to a place to ensure that someone wins kind of defeats the purpose of you voting for the people that live there, you know what I'm saying, are actually making the most informed and wise decisions for what's best for the people that live there. When we have, hundreds of millions of dollars pouring into a state, you know what I'm saying, to kind of push a candidate, I kind of think that to me, it defeats the purpose, of really, because granted, it's important. It's important, and pretty much at this point, the whole United States is looking at Georgia right now because these two seats will determine a lot. However, with that being said, to have all these people from other places kind of come to Georgia to try to influence, the Georgian vote, to me, it kind of defeats the purpose a little bit of why we have representatives and why, we want people from Georgia to make the best decisions that live in Georgia. So.
Oh, we're about to have a lot of money put in Georgia. I mean, we are about to have a lot of money put in Georgia. I just heard about the millions of dollars. What is it? $80 million put in South Carolina for the Senate race between Lindsey Graham and other guy. It's like it was like $80 million. See, the guy raised $100 million. And out of all of that, it's not even like he got that close to beating Lindsey Graham. It wasn't even close. The same way in Kentucky with Amy McGrath and Mitch McConnell, like that wasn't even close. And then Johnny Ernst in Iowa, Susan Collins maintained her seat in Maine remember we were talking about having this. Everybody was saying we're gonna have a blue wave. A blue wave is coming in. These Democrats are gonna eat up the seats. They thought Susan Collins was gone. They thought Lindsey Graham was over. They thought Jamie Harrison had him beat hands down. It was going to be close. They were even thinking that somehow Doug Jones was going to pull off a race against Tommy Tuberville in where he at Alabama. I mean, it was like they were saying, hey, we're not only are we going to maintain the House, but we're going to pick up at least 12 to 15 extra seats. That didn't happen. There were two Democrats.
The exact opposite.
Yeah, it was the exact opposite. I think they lost that many. The 2 seats in Miami and Miami-Dade or close to Miami-Dade down in Florida, where they lost races. And they're like, how in the heck did we lose these races? I think they picked up one. They picked up that one that's here in Georgia, Carolyn Bardot, or I think that's how you say her name. I think they finally called the race in her favor. But what do you? I mean, election night, even leading up to the other things. I mean, and we can talk about the presidential race here in a second. But what do you think about the races like Angela Stanton King, who campaigned her guts out and was out there talking to people? She ran against Nikema Williams. I mean, maybe because I didn't live in District 5. I didn't see anything. I didn't see ads. I didn't see anything for Nikema Williams. What do you, and not just Angela Stanton King and how bad she lost. What about, what was the young lady name in Baltimore? The black girl in Baltimore. She was a Classic. Kim Klacik. That was her name. Yeah. Kim Klacik. Mm-hmm. And John James, that race was extremely close in Michigan. I mean, what do you think about those? I mean, I looked at the race with Kim Klacik. I was following that one closely, and I mean, they could have called that race as soon as the polls closed. I mean, it wasn't even close. The same way with Angela Stanton King. I'm trying to figure out, is people just voting just because there's a D behind the name, or just because that absolutely. Name? What is it? What is it, Rob?
Yeah, so I think absolutely. So I mean, well, first of all, I think when it comes to the red wave, I think we called it, maybe episode 1 or 2 of of our when I was on the show, that there are a lot of people that are waking up and saying, hey, and I think the way I said it back and maybe episode 2 that I was on here was that the Democratic Party is having an existential identity crisis. Mm-hmm. Whereas in, they're going, they have the AOCs, they're trying to pull the party progressive, which is leaving the more centralist, people out. The central Democrats, as they've been tokened, or the moderate Democrats, leaving, trying to figure out, okay, where am I going to go from here? And so for people that are kind of more politically savvy, that's why, everyone besides the president on down, I think that you saw a red wave happen. I think that, with President Trump, he's just so polarized at this point that, even though, people, are shifting red, I think some people couldn't just pull the trigger on him specifically. Mm-hmm. But then, and so I think that's why we're seeing this red wave of people kind of looking at, Republican policies and saying, hey, is the Republican Party as bad as we thought it was? Are the policies, of the Democratic Party really helping minority communities? That's one. When it comes to like the red wave that we're seeing in so many, how so many seats get flipped, I think that there, in many areas, was a shift, and there will continue to be a shift to the Republican Party. Not necessarily Donald Trump, but definitely to the Republican Party. I will say that. Now, when it comes to these big, when you call like strongholds, right? We're talking about the Detroit, the Atlanta, the big, city areas, the place that Kim Klacik was running. So these are like Democratic strongholds. Mm-hmm. And so, when you're stepping out red, like, Angela Stanton, I don't think she, for a second, thought it was going to be a walk in the park. I don't think for a second she, I think she was optimistic. But, those metro cities that just, they're a breeding ground for Democrats, and Democratic policies. And so, I think it's almost like having a sacrificial lamb, like someone that goes before and is the trailblazers. But, I think it would definitely take about 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 cycles of her running before you're ever going to flip someplace like, like in Atlanta, especially in an election like this where it was so crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly if it was not a presidential year. So say if it was an off year where they were just running,
mm-hmm.
I think she would have had a much better chance. But when you have such a contested and highly, like a election year with the type of president we had and the type of contenders we had, people are coming out to vote for the president, and they're gonna vote blue all the way down. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, in 2 years, when it's not a presidential election, if she runs again, I think she has a much better chance of winning. If I'm remembering correctly, the last time Nike ran, it was like maybe 15,000, 11,000. I know she was running against Linda Pritchett, and the numbers were somewhere like in the 11,000, 12,000, around there. Of course, it's election year, so those numbers were like 70 something thousand.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's election year.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great opportunity, because I think what Angela Stanton did is that she placed herself. Her reach goes far outside of Atlanta. She did is she placed herself as an influencer, which is amazing. She has people far and wide that know her name, that believe what she believes in. And so when she does run again, hopefully she will, those people, when it comes to raising money, those are her donors. Because please believe, my team is going to have donors, Planned Parenthood, which she was the former vice president, of this area, of this region for Planned Parenthood. So she has the financial backing. And so I think this sets Angela Stanton up to have the backing, financially to go up. And I think she would fare better in off election year. And I think the same thing with Kim Klacik, and many other people that ran. It was great exposure around the nation, helped them raise money. I think if they tried again, in an off election year, when, not as many people are paying attention,
mm-hmm.
not as many people are voting, they can definitely have a better shot.
Well, I mean, it traditionally Republicans do better in non-election years. Because Republicans typically go to the polls, and I mean, because typically the population, the demographic is older, and I would say a little bit wealthier. So typically they don't have all the constraints to not go to the polls. They're not, they're really either running the business, or they're high up in the corporation, the company, or something like that. And so, them going to the polls, or even those who live in rural counties, is like, they're not in metro cities. So it's not like the poll is going to be packed. Republicans usually fare extremely well. We did see here in the state of Georgia, in local politics, we did see a blue wave. Clayton County, you saw Henry County, you saw Gwinnett County, you saw a blue wave where even Cobb County, Henry County, Gwinnett County, they all gained their first black sheriff, a Democrat, and so you did see blue waves that were happening. I want to kind of segue and really deal with really kind of hit on the black vote here. It's interesting because in looking at the black vote this year, Hillary Clinton had 82% of the black vote, and when I say black vote, I mean from black men. Hillary Clinton had 82%. Joe Biden was down for black men. He was down to 80%. Barack Obama, he had 95% of black men, of black male voters the first time he ran. It slid down to 87% the second time. Black women was with him overwhelmingly. Black women supported him 96%, 96% again when Obama ran again, when he ran again in 2012. Also in 2016, Hillary Clinton had 94% of black women. I think no one could argue the fact that if anybody pushed Joe Biden over the line, it was black women. Black women came out in support. The numbers were extremely telling for, particularly the black vote and especially for black men to turn out for President Trump. He didn't get the numbers that he wanted to push him over, but nevertheless, I feel like he had a lot more support there than he did from black women. But I want to ask you about the black vote here. Do you believe that the black vote itself is marginalized? Do you believe that view of the black vote is beginning to change? That just because we black, that we don't all think the same, we don't all talk the same, we don't all go to the same places. We may share the same skin color, we may share the same culture, we may share the same dialect, so on and so forth, but we necessarily don't all vote the same. How do you feel like that is changing as we move forward?
And you can see that in strategy. And I think that, well, first of all, there's a difference between, as you pointed out, the black male vote and the black female vote, unquestionably. I think even Republicans see that there's a difference. And this is the first election cycle that I actually saw ads specifically directed toward the black men. I've never seen that before. In an election, it's usually, here's the minorities, and it's usually Democrats, pushing towards minorities. This time you start targeted ads that were separate, male and female. And I think because at the end of the day, I think I don't know if it was the actual Donald Trump, ad himself, but there was one that I saw it here. It was playing Joe Biden's 1994 prime speech in front of the Senate, where he was talking about, pretty much these predators, are going to come near my family, your family. And then the black man said, "We know who you were talking about. You were talking about us." And I mean, it was such a powerful. I mean, every quote he said, So and he said, so let's deal with them. Saying not out of brotherly love, but out of, discipline, even if, and then it even said, even if we are the ones that created the situation, it doesn't matter. And then the black man says, we know exactly what we're talking about. You're talking about us. And so, that was such a powerful commercial, and it appealed directly to black men, because when you look at it, black men, were the ones that were, primarily, who affected the greatest population that was affected by the 1994 crime bill, right, was black men.
Right. And
so I think that when it comes to, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you have black men looking at this man, Joe Biden, saying, I can't get down with him. And then you have black women saying, oh, she's the first black female. She's she represents me. She's supporting me. So, you have that duality and that separation, and you have, both parties appealing to pretty much splitting the black vote. It didn't split clearly, 50-50 by any means, but, this was the first time, I think that we saw that